Mars enters the sign of Sagittarius on 7th of December 2025, and as it enters, we also have Jupiter entering the sign of Gemini, and they're going to get mutually aspected by each other. Mars is actually entering a friendly sign, so no anxiety, no pressure to perform. It should be a fun-filled holiday season for many people. Now, Mars coming into the sign of Sagittarius also means many young people, young children, will now gain faith in the words of their father because ninth house is father in the natural zodiac order. So, this shows that children are gonna have faith and learn from their father. Now, ordinarily, Mars in the ninth wants to explore things on its own. It does not want the help of other people, especially one's own parents. But due to the fact that this Mars is aspected by Jupiter, it's gonna put more faith in the words of the Father. In other words, this Mars will be quick to learn things. How? Because you say a wise man learns from other people's mistakes. So if you ain't got time to learn by committing your own mistakes, then learn from the mistakes of other people. That's what we say, right? Second thing is that Sagittarius is also the natural ninth house, which means travel and pilgrimage now get activated. For some, Mars being the eighth lord in the natural zodiac also means travel for the purpose of wills, legacies, insurance, property matters connected to one's ancestors are all getting triggered, and that's going to put some of you to work. Speaking of work, what about career? Let's look at career. Mars also is the ruler of the first house in the natural zodiac order. So, not just career, but anything that you start afresh is seen from Mars because Mars is initiative. Mars is the beginning. Mars is entrepreneurship and also the fire in one's heart to get things done. So, it's possible that some people begin to work in a new line of work now. For some, it's going to be a fresh start in education or even going places and starting something new. But there's going to be a sense of freshness, even though it may not be very exciting or outright boring. It's going to be fresh, something that you're going to look forward to. It's going to help get things moving. So there's going to be momentum and people are going to be on the move. And when Mars transits in the sign of Sagittarius, aspected by Jupiter, there's always a thing or two to celebrate about as Jupiter is a feel-good, positive planet. So I'm so excited about Mars transiting in the natural ninth being aspected by its house ruler, Jupiter. But remember, Jupiter is still in the very end of the sign. It's still in the very end of Gemini. So its aspect may be about 50% on Mars at the end of December. I think it's still a good percentage, so it's got to be good. I did make a monthly prediction video on this, but this video is going to offer more depth and more predictions. I'm going to cover all the aspects of Mars. I'm also going to get technical in this video. Hope you enjoy it. Let's begin with Aries Ascendant or Aries Moon sign. Hey there, my dear Aries. Let's see what Mars transit holds for you as it enters the sign of Sagittarius. Now, first of all, Mars going into the ninth house is going to give you a very fortunate yoga because Jupiter is also at the same time going into the sign of Gemini, aspecting your ninth house as well as the planet Mars, your Lagna Lord. And Mars is also casting its mutual aspect onto Jupiter. So you're going to give your very best at whatever work you do. You want to achieve more in life, and the planets are going to be supportive for that. Secondly, Mars moving into the ninth house usually means that it's going to open up the doors for travel, both short as well as long distances. And because Mars is joined by Sun and later on by Venus, many of you are going to travel with family for meaningful reasons, not just leisure or vacation. And Mars ninth house usually makes a person very, stubborn and steadfast in his path. He wants to do things on his own and learn from his own mistakes. But, because of retrograde Jupiter aspecting this Mars, this is going to be a time where you actually become more receptive to learning from other people's mistakes instead of figuring everything on your own. So it's like taking a crash course with regards to life's lessons. You upgrade your skills fast, your mind absorbs concepts instantly. And anyone studying astrology during this time, because Scorpio is the sign of astrology as well, so eighth lord going into the ninth house means that there's a possibility that you're gonna learn some really nice techniques in astrology very quickly. And professionals in engineering, especially mechanical, electrical, automobile, insurance, eighth lord means insurance. Mars covers surgery, politics, technology. All of these professionals will find this transit especially helpful with regards to upgrading their knowledge. And once Venus joins Mars in Sagittarius, education as well as building skill gets an extra boost. Now, Mars getting the aspect of the ninth and the 12th Lord means your philosophical side gets activated. Some of you enjoy learning about other cultures, going to different places, learning about different philosophies, including the spiritual aspect of life because Jupiter is your 12th Lord. Now, you're going to feel pulled towards something bigger than your current life, and if you embrace it, Mars being the 8th Lord in the ninth house is going to make it very transformative. It's going to take you to the very depths of that philosophy or culture that you want to explore and learn. Also, it's quite possible that a powerful teacher or mentor or a father figure now walks into your life and offers you guidance, especially because Jupiter is retrograde and aspecting Mars. And that means the soul tries to correct the path you strayed from because Jupiter is aspecting not just Mars, it is aspecting your Lagna Lord. Now, on a materialistic level, this period could also mean that you're going to get global exposure because Mars not only aspects the 12th house through its fourth aspect, but is also aspected by the 12th Lord, Jupiter. And Jupiter aspecting your Lagna Lord means that you now get noticed by your international clients. You get global exposure. This is when you could now take on a leadership role, entrepreneurship, consulting, teaching, or training, and this is going to be a very favorable transit for you. However, if you're old enough, let's say you're 60 or 70 and you're not working anymore, because you've taken a backseat, you've retired from work. In that case, when Mars aspects the 12th house, aspected by 12th Lord, mutual aspect on Jupiter means that you may now contemplate of resettling in a faraway place. Now that's possible. Now Saturn in the 12th, Saturn is progressing in the sign of Pisces, and in the 12th house it shows limitations that you're going to face in that foreign place or with regards to spirituality even. But Mars's aspect carrying on the energy of Jupiter will help you to look past that limitation. It gives you the courage to go beyond the limitation and fight for your place in the 12th house, whether it is spirituality or settling down in a new faraway place. Because of Mars and Saturn, because Mars aspects Saturn, and there's going to be a conflict like situation, I can guarantee that Mars transit in the sign of Sagittarius is going to be anything but relaxing because Mars Saturn 12th house combination uh, indicates conflict in the house of relaxation. Now, expenses could also go up during this time and then fall, but naturally, Mars Saturn 12th house combination calls for prudence in spending. Mars will also help you to confront any emotional or subconscious fears because of Saturn progressing in the sign of Pisces. But then again, Mars and Saturn working on your 12th house also means there's the potential for any kind of a fear or subconscious desire to take control of the situation. So subconsciously, the planetary movement could push you to confront any situation that is adversely affecting your life at the moment. Pisces represents the feet in the natural zodiac, and Mars and Saturn activating it Could mean there's a potential for inflammation in the feet, your knees, your thighs, all of that. But 12th house also represents your eyes, and with Saturn in the 12th, it could be drying things up. No tears is no good. Jupiter's aspect on Mars could bring good medical advice to recover from any mental or physical trauma that you're going through, and that's the positive side to it. Mars's seventh aspect on retrograde Jupiter is going to force you to think, and every decision now becomes a test of wisdom versus impulse, especially with regards to your siblings, with regards to communication, writing, speaking, etc. So expect some heated arguments with your siblings, with your neighbors, or your community at this time. Mars's eighth aspect falls on your fourth house of comfort and joy. So eighth aspect on the fourth house means you're stepping out of your comfort zone during this transit. So it's time for you to act. And there could be property, vehicle repair, or decisions related to that. Plans for relocating, maybe even discussions around inheritance or insurance could now take place within your family, all coming up for discussion as Mars transits into the sign of Sagittarius. And that's pretty much it for Aries ascendants or Aries moon sign. And if you're new to my channel, please subscribe below. Also share this video with your friends and family. And next up, we've got Taurus ascendant or Taurus moon sign. My dear Taurus, now Mars moves into your 8th house in the sign of Sagittarius, and 8th house represents sudden changes, inheritance, secrets, hidden knowledge, and then it also gets the aspect of Jupiter from the sign of Gemini. So Mars and Jupiter mutual aspect gives rise to Guru Mangal Yoga. And this is an auspicious yoga, making you very righteous in your path. However, 8th house getting activated means things begin quietly, like a shift in intuition, like a feeling in your gut, like the sense that something in your life is no longer the same. Something or someone at this time may trigger a deep inner transformation. For some of you, it starts with a conversation about finance, maybe investments or inheritance, insurance, shared money, or responsibilities. Not just emotional, not heated, just practical. But that practical conversation is going to open the door to something much more deeper. Don't worry, you're just treading in the right path as destined. Also, some of you might now commit to somebody or something very quickly. Let's say someone comes and says, "Hey, do you want to invest in my company? We're going to be selling XYZ and we think it's going to be the next big thing in the market." And you could be like, "Hey, count me in. I want to invest my money in your company." And you could do that very quickly. All of this could happen very fast without the need to go through the numbers or other facts. You just start making deals based on faith and trust, as Mars also aspects retrograde Jupiter. And that's a very Taurus like thing, isn't it? You don't just trust people, you seem to know intuitively who can really deliver. So you know it's right when it's right, and that's the reason why this is going to be a favorable transit in terms of wealth, in terms of savings or money. And 8th house is about legacies and wealth, inheritance, insurance, and also your generational wealth. So with Mars in the 8th house aspecting the 11th house of Pisces, you could now gain sudden income when you least expected it. You could gain money, you could gain property. Money could also flow from foreign sources because Mars is your 12th lord, aspected by Jupiter, making it positive to curtail losses and instead make it positive by nature. And with that positive aspect on the 11th house, we can effectively say that wealth can come from foreign countries. And since Mars is also the seventh lord, some of you could now see a collaboration happening, a new project, a new client, a new business idea, or finally charging what you're worth is now possible, which is another positive side to the story. So are we feeling lucky as yet, Taurus? Wait, there's more coming. Wait. Mars aspecting the seventh house directly where Jupiter retrogrades could fasten, or should I say, speed up the process of accumulation of wealth or material possessions. And Jupiter being the 11th lord in the second house is favorable for gaining a lot of wealth. And now we're adding Mars's aspect to the mix. So we're looking at big chunks of money coming in for Taurus. Now, finally, the Mars's eighth aspect on the sign of Cancer, your third house, wants you to break the wall that you built around yourself. So here, Mars could push you to do the things that intimidate you, push you to do the things that make you afraid. It could be with regards to communication, like public speaking or starting a business, taking an initiative to do something new, or even believing that you can work your way to the top no matter how badly the odds are stacked against you. So you may be afraid of putting in a lot of effort because the odds are stacked against you. But really, Mars is confronting you. He is asking you to confront your fears and put in the effort. Now, third house is also your courage, your skills, your appetite for taking risks, and all of this is getting activated with Mars transiting in your eighth house, aspecting the third house. But overall, I can see that this is a good transit, nothing to worry about, and that's all I've got for Taurus. If you like my video, give it a thumbs up, like and share it with your friends and family. If you need a paid consultation, drop an email and I will look into it. Next up, we have Gemini ascendants or Gemini moon sign. Hello, my dear Geminis. Now let's look at what Mars transit holds for you. Mars is your 11th lord as well as your 6th lord, and he goes into the 7th house of marriage, contracts, and he's now going to be aspecting your Lagna as well. Now, Mars in the 7th indicates Mangal Dosh. But then, thankfully for Jupiter, which is now retrograding in the sign of Gemini, aspecting Mars, it's going to cut that dosha into half. It's gonna make it less severe. And Mars and Jupiter mutual aspect is gonna give rise to a very favorable Mangal Yoga, which brings a surge of positive energy into your life. Now, like I said, Mars being the sixth lord going into the seventh house could bring some challenges or disputes within the marital setup. It's not good for marriage, but then again, Jupiter aspecting it is going to help you resolve by being the wise one, not just the smart one. And Geminis are really smart people. But then now you're going to be the wise one to keep the argument short, or you know when to keep your mouth shut, that sort of thing. Or you could even turn things around by being funny before your spouse starts throwing things at you. Mars being the 11th lord is going to be favorable for gaining new connections. Maybe new boyfriend or girlfriend scenario opens up, especially for single Geminis. You could now see someone coming into your life, someone that you could lean on, and there's a trust element, basically a trust element getting activated as Mars transit in the sign of Sagittarius. Now, Mars also aspects your 10th house, and Jupiter is your 10th lord, aspecting the 10th house, strengthening the 10th house. And Mars is aspecting not just the 10th house through its fourth aspect, he's also aspecting the Karaka of career itself, which is Saturn, because Saturn is now transiting in the 10th house in the sign of Pisces. So Mars is kind of fired up to tackle problems. So all I can say is that your workplace is going to get pretty intense as Mars begins its transit into your 7th house and aspects the 10th house. And remember, 7th house is the Bhavat Bhavam of the 10th house. So things are going to get pretty intense, but you need to be careful about how you approach that problem, as it could make matters worse and problems can flare up instead of you getting to solve them. So all I can say is go slow, as Saturn is now asking you to exercise prudence at your workplace. So you don't have to solve every problem there is. Just take one problem at a time. Now, if you're into business, you can now expect intensity. Big opportunities are going to come your way. You could now be uh, in the center of decision making. New negotiations could take place. And a lot of growth based on collaboration is also possible as Mars enters the seventh house. Now, what about finding a job? Now, if you're someone who's looking for a regular job, in such a situation, opportunities are going to open up as Mars being the 11th Lord aspects the 10th house and the Karaka of career. So you could now get a shot to crack an interview or two. And all I can say is go slow. Don't let excitement take the wheel and steer. Be practical, be yourself, and don't get daunted by the amount of hard work that you need to put in to crack that test or interview. Now, back at home, there could be conversations about emotional needs. There could be conversations about finance and sustenance. And we've got Mars's eighth aspect on the second house to be blamed for that, as it could stir a lot of emotions within the family where they're rooting for you to emerge successful. And so you may, God willing. And I'm wishing you all the very best as we enter the close of the year. And if you like what you heard, give it a thumbs up, like and share this with your friends and family. Next in the zodiac, we've got Cancer ascendant or Cancer moon sign. Hey there, Cancer. Let's look at what Mars has in store for you. Now, Mars is moving into the sign of Sagittarius, and Sagittarius is a very powerful sign. Although it's not Mars's exaltation sign, it is a very powerful place for Mars to be in because it is very close to its exaltation sign. And as Mars moves from Cancer towards Capricorn, the more it traverses away from Cancer, the more stronger it gets. And now Mars being in Sagittarius is a very fiery place for it to be in, and that means Mars is all fired up to tackle the difficult situations in life, to tackle the challenges in your life. And being the fifth lord in the sixth house means that it's going to bring creative solutions to the table as you progress in the sixth house. Now, sixth house not only represents work related problems, right? Because sixth house is your daily routine. And we can pretty much bring the entire gamut of things in the sixth house. And that means that it could be any problem in your life that needs a resolution. And this is a time when you're going to get that resolution because not only Mars is good at fighting obstacles and getting over hurdles, but also we've got Jupiter aspecting Mars, and that is a good sign. So this could be a good time for you to win a dispute in a court of law or crack that exam or see more prosperity in terms of wealth, in terms of career, anything at all where you feel that progress is required to be achieved. And that's where your focus is going to be as Mars enters the sign of Sagittarius. And Sagittarius is ninth in the natural zodiac order, and that in itself is confirming us that you are now ready to make your own destiny. Why? Because some of you could now feel that you're being blocked in your destiny because of Saturn progressing in the sign of Pisces. Things are slowing down in your ninth house. There's not much progress. And ninth house is also the Bhavat Bhavam of your fifth house. So you may feel that, there's not much happening here as destiny is getting blocked by Saturn. But that's not really true. Saturn is just trying to make you more patient and gain the luck and fortune in the long term rather than focus on the short term. But now, because of your restlessness and because Mars is your Yoga Karaka planet, it has no other way but to break open the fetters of convention or the shackles that is binding you to that difficult situation and get you out. So Mars aspecting the ninth house is going to make you a bit more free and fortunate and you stop following advice blindly as Jupiter aspects Mars. You're gonna stop waiting for luck to save you. You stop believing someone else will make the decision for you. This is the time where Mars is ready to take initiative to get things done. Now, Jupiter should make things easier as the mutual aspect of the fifth lord as well as your ninth lord. Mutual aspect is going to give rise to a Raj Yoga that is favorable for prosperity, that is favorable for progress in life. Now, work wise, there's quite a good amount of challenges that you now have to overcome, but all I can say is that you have the capacity to offer creative solutions that work for your company to help them gain momentum, but it may not be enough to help them gain revenue. Don't worry, because you still have a long way to go before you can contribute significantly to your organization. So you will get your turn to contribute to your company. Now, Mars aspecting your 12th house could give you insomnia. It could give you disturbances in sleep. And this often happens when you suddenly have the urge and determination to get things done. You're working on your destiny and you've got no time to take a break, right? So that could happen. And whenever you're making progress in life, there's so much going on in your mind, and then what happens? Then sleep gets disturbed, right? So rest and relaxation are going to take a backseat as Mars progresses in the Sagittarius sign and aspects your 12th house. Mars aspects your first house as well, and now Mars, through its eighth aspect, aspecting the first house, is a very purging aspect. It's not just transformative, but it's a very purging aspect from your Yogacaraka planet. So this aspect not only makes you smart, but it also helps you to work on yourself to shed a skin that's not relevant anymore. And it's going to make people see a stronger version of yourself, and some may not like it. Mars really does not give two pence about who likes what about you, right? So he cares that you rise in life, and he cares that you make progress and prosperity. And that's what we're going to see as Mars transits into the sixth house. And that's all I've got for Cancer Ascendant or Cancer Moon sign. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe below. Also, share this video with your friends and family. Give a thumbs up if you like what you heard. And if this video stirs something in you, do leave a comment. I would love to read about it. Next up, we've got Leo Ascendant or Leo Moon sign. Alright, for Leos, Mars is now going to be transiting into your fifth house of creation, your fifth house of self-expression, your children, and education. So for you, Mars being the fourth lord in the fifth house indicates home is where the heart is, right? So romantic relationships are going to be pretty fiery this transit. You might now get a chance to take them home or introduce them to your family. The passion intensifies. Your faith in your partner becomes very strong and almost unshakable. And you feel lucky to be in a relationship with the person that you're with, and you want to create, you want to perform, you want to share ideas, teach, inspire, and basically get noticed. Romantic relationships are definitely going to flourish during this time. Now, if you're a student, then you become very competitive at your school or college or university. This is splendid time to keep your spirits high and your momentum even higher. You could do really well in competitive exams. You could do well in dramas, in skits, or basically anything that involves self-expression, you know. So if you're enrolling into a drama or a skit where you need to perform something on stage, then it's going to be a very memorable time as you showcase your talent to the world. Now, if you're a couple with children, then Mars' fifth house generally brings tantrums from children, making it a bit difficult to handle. But this time around, we've got the aspect of Jupiter, and so they should be able to tone down a bit. However, let's say your children are pretty old enough. You know, they're they're in mid 30s or 40s or even 50s, and that means you need to now have patience and faith in them, because direct aspect on Mars by Jupiter being the fifth lord adds strength to the fifth house. So more power to your children, and the decisions that they make are not only going to be the right decisions but also transformative, as Mars aspects the eighth house through its fourth aspect, where Saturn is presently progressing. So the aspect on the eighth house will also open discussions around wills, around insurance, property matters, and conception and future prospects, and they're all coming up for a decision to be made by you. So this transit is going to be uh, very important for you, because it's going to bring several issues to the foreground for completion. And Mars's seventh aspect on your 11th house could now bring gains through property, through inheritance, through friends, through people you collaborate with. Some of you will also make gains through the stock market or any other investment or speculative means, because Jupiter is now aspecting your fifth house of stocks, and Mars is about going aggressive. It actually wants to trade more than invest, and that's what we're looking at, because Mars is an aggressive planet. But otherwise, I feel that this is a very, very good transit as far as wealth is concerned. Now, Mars's eighth aspect on your 12th house could bring some anxiety of being alone, because 12th house is the house of isolation. Now, that could bring difficulty in falling asleep as well. So, if you're someone who is alone, it's my suggestion that you seek company at this time, because it's a good time to be with friends or family rather than be alone. Don't stay at home during this transit, because Mars makes it that much more difficult for you to relax. And I think I've covered all the aspects, and that's all I've got with Leos. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe below. Also, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, share this with your friends and family, and let's move on to the next sign, which is Virgo ascendant or Virgo moon sign. For Virgos, Mars moving into Sagittarius means Mars is moving into your fourth house. And when the fourth house gets activated, life kind of stops happening outside. It starts happening inside your home, inside your emotions, your heart. And Mars in the fourth stirs feelings you did not know you'd been holding in. Usually, whenever I see Mars transiting the fourth house, the person actually goes through all kinds of feelings from one spectrum to the other. He could feel protective one moment, overwhelmed the very next moment, or you could feel nostalgic for the past, and then restless about the future. So your inner world becomes louder than the outer world, and that's because uh, Mars in the Mars in the 10th house gets directional strength. Whenever Mars transits in the 10th house, it gets directional strength, and it becomes very strong there. Whereas in the fourth house, it's kind of the opposite, where Mars becomes a lot weaker. But still, Mars is making its way to Capricorn, where it becomes extremely powerful, where it gets exalted. So the closer it is to Capricorn, the more power Mars has got during its transit. So in Sagittarius, I feel that it's not all that bad. Whatever problem comes your way, you have the strength and ability to deal with it through the help of your family or siblings. And Mars going into the fourth house could also help you sort problems related to your domestic issues, to your home, especially if home itself is tied to your emotional security. And it is for most people, isn't it? And you may feel the same way too. And you may feel the urge to now reorganize things at home, or repair your home, or renovate, because there could be something leaking in your roof, and you feel like fixing things or moving out. So there's a possibility that you're contemplating on relocating your home or upgrading the living condition, and that is all coming up for you to take a decision on. Additionally, time could now be spent with one's mother, as Mars makes its way to Sagittarius, and that could bring some health troubles or domestic pressure onto your mother. So take good care of her, don't worry, Jupiter aspecting Mars is gonna is gonna take care of that problem even before it flares up. And Mars's aspect on the seventh house makes you work hard to keep the relationship alive, to keep the relationship strong with your spouse, with your partner, or other people in general, because seventh house is also other people. Mars aspecting the 10th house through its seventh aspect could intensify your efforts to make progress at work. You could now be seeing a very transformative phase in your career, and with Jupiter retrograde, it's gonna mostly be very favorable. So for those doing business, new deals, new opportunities are gonna open up for you to cash in on during Jupiter transit. And Mars also aspects the 11th house through its eighth aspect. So here Mars wants to explore different avenues, different means to make money, maybe even go online, or sell your stuff through a mutual friend or something of that sort, where you're exploring different ways to increase the flow of income, to increase the flow of money, and experiment and do things that helps you in that regard. So all of that decision is also coming up for Virgo ascendants or Virgo moon sign. That covers up all the aspects, and that's all I've got for Virgos. And if you're new to my channel, please subscribe below. Also, if you need a paid consultation, do drop an email. If you like what you heard, give it a thumbs up. And let's move on to the next sign. We've got Libra ascendants or Libra moon sign. Hello there, my dear Libra ascendants or Libra moon sign. Now, Libra folks, Mars moving into the third house is gonna improve your health and wellness, because Mars is a runner and third house is self effort. And whenever Mars goes into the third house, you gain momentum like never before. Mars is gonna pump up your heart to speed up the blood flow. He's gonna give you a good deal of energy to deal with life situations. And this is going to be a very energetic phase for Librans. You become sharply aware of what you want, what you don't want, what you're tired of tolerating, and where you've been playing small. So you stop avoiding conversations that don't matter to you. You stop procrastinating because of Mars in the third house. And you also stop waiting for the right moment, because you realize that this is the right moment and this is where you need to act, where you need to put in the initiative. So this is the month where you're going to negotiate better, because Mars is your seventh lord in the third house. So negotiations open up. You ask for what you deserve. You close deals without fear. You stop apologizing for having needs, because your second lord goes into the third house, and that means you've got needs. You want to manifest things and ask the universe to give it to you. So you're not trying to please, you're just trying to live, and that's okay. Wonderful transit for those in the marketing field, those who are into writing, content creation, journalists, those dealing with public work, and even those who do a lot of work in the field, where they have to work on the ground, moving places, even those who are working in agriculture. And Mars in the third could make you sign deals and agreements, being the seventh lord in the third house. So this transit is going to open the doors for a new stream of income as well, or an opportunity to earn more in the future. And that's definitely looking positive. But I would say do this before December 2025. And Mars's aspect on your sixth house, where Saturn is progressing, is going to help you improve your health. So any difficult disease is going to get handled by Mars, and it's going to be nipped in the bud. Your routines become more structured, more disciplined, because of Mars aspecting the sixth house and also Saturn. And Mars will make your enemies fear and give up, so they don't even stand a chance with Mars aspecting the sixth house. So this is going to be a very interesting transit for you. And Mars seventh aspect on the ninth house opens up travel. It's going to open up education, teaching, training, and all of that is gaining fresh momentum. Meeting up with close friends, dining out, all of that becomes a frequent theme during Mars transit in Sagittarius. You will get the support of your siblings, of your friends, your neighbors in the most unexpected times, and that's going to make you happy and bring a smile onto your face, right? So Mars 8th aspect onto your 10th house um, pushes you towards something new, a new role, maybe a new environment, new leadership responsibility, or a new career path altogether. All of that is possible. And because Sun is also going to be joining Mars sometime late in December, sorry, mid December, authority figures are going to start noticing you. They're going to admire your courage. Some are going to get threatened by your courage. Either way, I see that you're no longer going to be invisible this month. And in my opinion, this is going to be a very interesting transit. Just let loose and enjoy your time, you know. And that's all I've got for Libras. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe below. Also share this with your friends and family. And if this prediction stirs something in you, do leave a comment, okay? And next up, we've got Scorpio ascendant or Scorpio moon sign. Scorpios, let's look at what Mars has in store for you. Now, Mars goes into the second house in the sign of Sagittarius, and second place in your chart represents family, possessions, speech, values, and also your accumulated wealth, your stored wealth, your savings. So Mars goes into the second house means your words now carry a lot of firepower. People in the family are going to respect you. They're going to respect your words. They listen to what you have to say. They follow your command. So if you've been sidelined in the family and people haven't been listening to you, Mars going into the second house is going to make people follow your command. Mars second house could give some dispute or struggles with regards to saving money, and that's going to be one of the focus points during this transit as you struggle to accumulate wealth, and you're going to have to work really hard to, save money for a rainy day. Second house also represents nutrition. It represents diet, the food that we ingest. And with Mars in the second, there could be a situation where you're not able to eat on time, which could further aggravate your already tense digestion as Mars aspects the fifth house where Saturn is already progressing and slowing down the digestion, slowing down things in the fifth house. So this is another area of concern that needs to be addressed by Scorpios. But with Jupiter aspecting the Mars in the second house, you should be able to get good medical advice or even let go of what's harming your body, because Jupiter casting its gaze on the second house means good food habits coming into play. Letting go of red meat, letting go of alcohol or what doesn't work for your body anymore is what we see from Jupiter's aspect on Mars. But remember, this is just 50% of the aspect of Mars, but it's still good enough. So that's a positive side to this transit. Now, Mars Jupiter mutual aspect will make you energetic and also righteous in your path. And some of you may turn to vegan food and maybe experiment a new kind of diet, new form of diet for religious or philosophical reasons as well. And this mutual aspect of Jupiter and Mars is not only going to make you righteous and energetic, it's going to give rise to a Raj Yoga. So we're looking at creative means of saving money. Like if you want to go to a Halloween party, uh, instead of buying that costume, you could now end up borrowing that costume from someone and saving money in that fashion. So that sort of thing happens with Jupiter aspecting the second house. So it may not be a direct increase in your wealth, but it's definitely going to help you save money for the future, for a rainy day. And Mars aspecting on the fifth house makes you competitive at college, at school, or university. And there could be challenging circumstances and distractions, and you may now try to see momentum in your fifth house because Saturn has been slowing things down there, and your Lord aspecting the fifth house means that you're gonna bring some motivation, some vigor to pursue education, and that's a positive sign as well. Now, Mars aspecting the fifth may also push you to work on your creative projects and have more control over them, especially if you're into supervisory role at your work. So this is going to give control, helping you resolve some issues, but expect some hurdles in that area of work as well. Mars' seventh aspect on Jupiter, your eighth house, often triggers sudden financial decisions that you will now have to make. So there could be a situation where you would have to discuss about inheritance, investments, loans, insurance, maybe even separating accounts or joining accounts with your spouse, all that sort of stuff happening with Mars aspecting this house. And Mars's eighth aspect on your ninth house brings a sort of urgency in education. You suddenly you may find yourself enrolling in higher education, in some kind of a certification program or upskilling as a means of enhancing your career, and that sort of stuff happening. And Mars's eighth aspect can also bring sudden travel due to education, maybe even learn a foreign language. But whatever it is, this looks more like a place where you would go on a pilgrimage instead of on a vacation. So the travel in itself is going to be transformative. So this is not vacation travel. This is traveling for a purpose. And that's all I've got for Scorpios. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe below. Also, hit share and like this video. And moving on, we've got Sagittarius ascendants or Sagittarius moon sign. Sagittarius people, Mars transits to your first house and Jupiter aspects from the seventh house, activating your Lagna and making it extremely strong and powerful. Now, Mars first house usually means Mangal dosh because it aspects the eighth house. So be careful of certain events where you could face accidents or injuries, mostly because of neglect, but if you're careful, things should go well. For more on this, check out my video on monthly predictions for December 2025. Now, let me tell you before we begin that Mars aspecting the eighth house means this is going to be tremendously transformative for many of you in many ways. There's going to be endings, there's going to be new beginnings, and transformation in between. So let's explore and see what Mars transit holds for you. It's not all that negative, so don't worry about it. Mars in the first house gives you the courage and the energy to not just push forward in life, but to celebrate and have some fun because Mars is your fifth lord going into the first house. So fifth house is the house of prosperity. It is the house of happiness. It is the house of joy. So fifth lord going into the first house brings a lot of joy and prosperity as Mars transits in the sign of Sagittarius. But then Mars entering your first house means that something inside you is shifting. You wake with purpose. You feel restless for progress. You refuse to live passively. You refuse to shrink yourself for anyone. And Mars, being the 12th lord in the first house, means you could now spend money for taking care of yourself. And that means you could now splurge on self-care products, on your appearance. Maybe you could now join a gym or a yoga program or even hire a personal trainer to help improve your health and fitness. That sort of thing can happen. This is great for new beginnings, a renewed sense of self and confidence. All of this is on the cards for Sagittarius, and it's going to be a favorable transit for as far as Mars is concerned, as Mars is a friendly planet to your ascendant Lord Jupiter. And Mars aspecting the fourth house could help you reorganize the house or think about relocation, confront domestic issues, and even contemplate buying your own home, your own house where you live and enjoy. This is a time where you may contemplate on investing money in a property, but in the meantime, Saturn, fourth house in the sign of Pisces, there's some difficulty in your living situation, is what it indicates. So there could be some problem with regards to a leaky roof or something about your home that's not all that perfect. So there's going to be a few hurdles and obstruction along the way, which you need to handle with patience. And with Mars in the first aspecting the fourth, it does give you momentum to work on these themes. Now, Mars aspect on the seventh house could open the doors for a romantic relationship. Now, if you're already single, then this could be a great time for you. However, for some, this may not just be the beginning of a new relationship, but also attaining closure on a past relationship. Now, take it with a pinch of salt because this is not true for every Sagittarius, but some of you who are fighting a case in a court of law, this could be a time where you could now see a closure of your past relationship. So any dispute or problems gets taken care of during this transit. And it's going to be a favorable transit to come out of a bad marriage or relationship for good. And yes, the prospects of a new relationship opening up does look good. However, do check your birth chart and your dasha bhukti to confirm how your relationship is going to turn out to be in the long run. But overall, you will do well in romantic relationships, in education, in and Mars being the 12th lord in the first house means traveling far away on vacation. That kind of stuff could happen. So this is great news for Sagittarius as it helps you to beat the routine and give you a break from all that jazz to rejuvenate yourself and come back stronger. Now, fifth lord in the first house could also mean that your appetite for taking risks is going to grow. You know, you could now be someone who invests money in a stock market. You could trade money, you could invest in cryptos, that sort of stuff. But all I can say is don't put all your eggs in one basket. Use your wisdom wisely while you gamble. And that covers Sagittarius. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe below. If you like what you heard, give it a thumbs up. And also share this with your friends and family. Next up, we've got Capricorn Ascendants or Capricorn Moon sign. Hey there, Capricorns. Mars transits from your 11th house and moves to your 12th house on 7th of December 2025. So, whenever Mars goes to the 12th house, there's going to be restlessness. And being the 11th lord in the 12th house, you could now end up traveling very frequently on a short notice. It's like you finish up one trip to the Bahamas, and once you're back, you are asked to move to Africa in a short notice. Or if you are away from home, you could make a trip to see your family and then return to your place of work only to find out that you need to go back again. That sort of stuff could happen where there's restlessness in travel, and that is pretty given with Mars in the 12th house. But Mars in the 12th can also cause injuries, loss of blood, and hospitalization. So if you're not careful during this transit, things can go south. So be careful around sharp objects, blades, knives, etc., just so you don't cut yourself accidentally. Mars 12th house also increases your expenses, but being the fourth lord, you now spend effortlessly and comfortably. And fourth lord in the 12th house could also translate to buying something that enhances your comfort or spending on travel or privacy or for the purpose of emotional coping. Now that's possible. Now Mars's aspect on the third house where Saturn is now transiting could also mean that now is the time where you spend money on upskilling or learning a new language. But then this is a favorable aspect which will help you take initiative with courage and make profits in business through self effort. But of course, there's going to be ups and downs in business, especially business because of Mars's eighth aspect on your seventh house of partnership. Now, communication, however, is going to become sharper, more direct, more confident. You gain the courage to take bold initiatives, bold decisions. Remember, third house is the house of initiative and the effort that you put in. But the ninth house is the house of rewards and return on investment. It's the house where you gain the fruits of your action. And that's why it's the Bhavat Bhavam of the fifth house. It's the Bhavat Bhavam of the fifth house. And now since Saturn, your Lagna Lord is aspecting the ninth house. And I mean when I say this, if your action is true and sincere, Saturn being the arbiter of justice, will have no other choice but to reward you for the efforts and the courage that you put in. So make the best use of this Mars transit as Mars gets energized by Jupiter, and it's mostly going to be a favorable transit. Just have faith in the higher power because Sagittarius is the house of faith. It is the house of belief. So you need to believe in that higher power, and that will ignite your inner strength as 12th house represents the subconscious mind as well. So if you're strong on the inside, you can pretty much take on every challenge that is on the outside. And Mars's aspect on the 6th house is going to make you compete and get over obstacles. So this is a good opportunity for Sagittarius, sorry, Capricorn folks to bury the hatchet with your enemies. Thankfully, Jupiter in the 6th house is already making things a little easier for you in that respect. And the other takeaway because of Mars and Jupiter aspect, mutual aspect, is that it's going to make you believe in a higher power. You become more spiritual and more open to the possibilities and the mysteries of a higher power that governs this universe. And that's all I've got for Capricorns. If you're new here, please subscribe below. If you like what you heard, give it a thumbs up and also share this with your friends and family. Next up, we've got Aquarius Ascendants or Aquarius Moon sign. So for Aquarius folks, Mars moves into your 11th house of connections, recognition, hopes, dreams, and wishes, and also your income. So this time, when Mars goes into your 11th house, aspected by Jupiter from the 5th house, you are going to make steady progress to build your wealth because Jupiter, even as it aspects the sign of Sagittarius, is strengthening the 11th house. It wants to expand your earnings. But then don't expect instant results. You need to put in the effort and lay the groundwork in order to see more income. So this is not just for people who are into business or those who have a side gig, that sort of stuff, because Mars and Jupiter mutual aspect and Mars aspecting your second house, aspecting your fifth house, means many of you may now feel drawn towards investment, speculative gains, trading, or starting something that grows slowly but brings wealth over a period of time. So this is great for accumulation of wealth because Saturn also at the same time continues its progression in the second house. So slow building of wealth now gets activated. Maybe an SIP is on the cards for some of you, but something something with regards to investment is going to take place with Mars in the sign of Sagittarius in your 11th house. Now, Mars aspecting the second also indicates you buying new stuff or even repair the old stuff at home to make it new. Some of you could now contemplate on buying your own house or property as Mars gets the aspect of Jupiter while it is in the 11th house because Mars indicates property and getting the aspect of Jupiter as per Nadi astrology indicates gain of property. So gain of property or at least renovation of property, that sort of stuff could happen now. So if you're going through a good Dasha Bhukti and Mars is well placed in your chart, then there's every possibility of this materializing for many of you. And 11th house Mars could indicate struggles within your social circle. In naughty terms, there could be disputes over money with your friends. That sort of stuff can happen because Mars is an aggressive planet. It wants to beat up people, but not really in the way you think. It really is a planet which can start a war. But thankfully for Jupiter aspecting Mars, things should go well. And if you're a student, Mars being the third and your 10th Lord aspecting your fifth house makes you focus on education and put in extra efforts to understand some of the theoretical underpinnings of the subject and make progress. Mars also helps you to have fun along the way, whether it is learning something new or even spending time with your partner, and your passion is bound to intensify when Venus, which is presently transiting in the sign of Scorpio, joins Sagittarius after December 2025. So this transit of Mars will also be favorable for auspicious beginnings or events taking place at home, and you get the pleasure and comfort of your spouse and children during this transit. Mars in the 11th also makes you work hard towards expanding your social circle, because in the real world, although talent opens the doors, connections decide how wide it opens, and the right souls don't just change your timeline, they change your life, for good. And because Mars aspects your sixth house as well, it becomes all the more important for you to make peace with competitors, with your rivals, with your enemies. And it's time to bury the hatchet if you've been going through a rough patch of friends and enemies. And Jupiter aspect will help you make peace during this transit. And that's all I've got for Aquarius. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe below. Also, if you liked my predictions, give it a thumbs up. If the prediction stirs something in you, then leave a comment. I'd be happy to read it. And next up, we've got Pisces ascendant or Pisces moon sign. So for Pisces folks, Mars moves into your 10th house. The 10th house of career, vocation, and public recognition. And Mars does really well in the 10th house because it gains directional strength in the house of career. So anyone who's looking for a job, anyone who's looking for a role or a change in designation, uh, I can see that 10th house Mars transit is going to be very favorable for you. Additionally, Mars being the ninth lord in the 10th house opens up travel for the purpose of business or work. So any travel that you undertake at this time during Mars's transit in Sagittarius is going to give you favorable results. And if you're chasing business, you could now get new clients, new orders, and visibility at work. And when Sun makes its way into the sign of Sagittarius somewhere mid-December, you could secure orders from the government. You could gain the support of the government to make wise business decisions, as Jupiter also aspects the sign of Sagittarius. And that means you could now opt for tax cuts or open up businesses in special economic zones and benefit from the government. That sort of stuff could happen. Now, Pisces moon signs, if you're a Pisces moon sign, you could feel a bit stressed at work. You could feel stressed because of Saturn transiting in your Rashi. And if you're not careful or conscious about what you're doing at work, there's every chance of making a mistake and then regretting that decision. However, Mars entering the sign of Sagittarius and casting its fourth aspect on your Rashi is going to make you feel lucky and energetic. And when Sun makes its way into Sagittarius mid-December, with Jupiter aspecting it from Gemini, communication becomes smooth. You will gain the support of your bosses to correct that mistake without feeling afraid of what or how that error may get perceived. Letters of reference that you make to someone at work or business will get favorable response. Remember, everyone makes mistakes, but the lesson now that Saturn wants to drive home is that you need to be a lot more vigilant in your work, or things may slip from your radar and you would have to step in to control the damage. Saturn is all about micromanagement, and you better micromanage at work to avoid mistakes, because Saturn brings about those mistakes in order to make you more vigilant and to make you take your work more seriously, more sincerely. And March's seventh aspect on your fourth house. Now, many of you may think that this may not be a very good aspect because we've got retrograde Jupiter, and then Mars aspecting the fourth house of comfort is going to make one's peace of mind go for a toss, that sort of thing. But no, not really. Even though Mars is an aggressive planet, Mars is very happy in the sign of Sagittarius in the 10th house because it's got directional strength where it is focusing on career. So here, its aspect is going to bring more comfort and peace than you imagined, especially because Jupiter is also retrograding in the sign of Gemini. So this is also a time where you will gain prized possessions in the most unexpected ways during Mars transit, especially because Mars is also your second lord as well as your ninth lord. So second lord of possessions and wealth, and since second house represents family relationships, You also get the support of your family in establishing peace of mind and domestic peace during this transit. And Mars being the ninth lord aspecting the first as well as the 10th lord Jupiter, right? Jupiter will give rise to auspicious events at home. So you're going to get pretty busy with celebrations this transit, and aspect of ninth and 10th lord gives rise to a Lakshmi yoga. It makes you dutiful at work. It makes you gain recognition, and also gives you power and authority. And when things are good, it's very important not to let ego take the wheel and steer. Don't let ego get in the way. Stay humble, stay open to the grace. More showers of blessings will come to you next year as your Lord Jupiter moves into the sign of Cancer, where it gets exalted in the fifth house. So a lot of prosperity is on the cards for Pisces people when Jupiter goes into the fifth house next year. Now, as of now, Mars's eighth aspect on your fifth house on the sign of Cancer. Now, here lies the emotional transformation, because Cancer is basically an emotional sign. So, your professional identity is going to grow in the sign of Sagittarius, but your heart also wakes up to creative endeavors. Your passion is going to return. Your romantic intensity returns. The desire to feel alive is going to return. Someone or something may inspire you emotionally, awakening a part of you that you buried for routine. So for students, this is a good time, but all I see is some ups and downs, especially if you're someone who's writing an exam. So you score well in some subjects while you may not do so well in other subjects. So really, it's a mixed bag, uh, but nonetheless, it should not be all that bad, because Mars, being the ninth lord aspecting the fifth house, is bound to make you count your blessings. And that's a wrap on all signs. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe below. If this prediction stirs something in you, leave a comment, tell me about your experience, and stay tuned for more transit videos and astrological updates. Until next time, this is VGS signing off, wishing you all a happy Festivus.